Hey everybody, this is Reza.
This is Sandy.
Welcome back to the 16th episode of the Stone Cold Sober podcast.
Oh my gosh, we're back on track.
We are back on track. That's the thing. This is the first time we've done back-to-back weeks in a while now. We're
trying to get on a dedicated schedule again.
Yeah, we can't be like Jalen and Jacoby, just pop in every like 3 weeks or so. You know, we don't got time for that.
Yeah. Well, you and I were talking earlier this week about what kind of theme we wanted as we continue to find our voice in this thing.
Right.
And I think what we've decided on is sort of the journey of growing up. You and I are hitting sort of our quarter life mark, and this is where a lot of interesting things start to happen in our lives.
Right. Very.
Friends are getting engaged. A lot of people finding new jobs, new career paths. People making big life moves.
Yeah.
And it's I think the right pillar to connect everything under the guise of that.
And I also think it's very appropriate for what we know, like what the two of us can talk about from like similar perspectives as well as different perspectives. You know, you're a hardworking man in New York City, and I'm just a grad student in Delaware. You know, I'm doing the school thing. You work in the corporate life.
Yeah.
You're a single man. I got a 3-year. I'm in a 3-year long relationship right now.
Respect the relationship.
Hoping to throw that ring down sometime. If you listen to our episode, 2 weeks or 2 episodes ago, I think episode 14.
Yeah.
Talked about the rings. But it's also what I enjoy talking about too. You know, it's just our lives.
It's
our experiences.
Right. And I think that we share a lot of universal experiences with other people, but we're also unique. We're in a unique position to experience some things that I think some people will find interesting to hear.
Right.
For example, I'm going through some interesting things at work right now. A lot of people at work have given notice. The creative director that brought me in, who basically I knew from the agency side, who really took a chance on me because I had no technical skills, but knew how hard of a worker I was.
Yeah.
He's put in notice. His last day is on Wednesday. He recently had a baby, and he lives in Philadelphia, so he basically chose a job in Philly where he still gets to continue to do great work, but now his commute is no longer a 90-minute train ride. It's a 8-minute walk.
Yeah, can you imagine doing that every single day? 90 minutes to and from work.
So he lives in Philly, and his commute to New York, door to door, is shorter than some people who live in deep far in Queens.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah, because the Acela is super fast.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it takes you right into the subway that you take down here.
Yeah.
But it's still if you can imagine, his son is less than a year old, and there's just so many things happening right now that it would just be so much easier for him to be that close to home.
Yeah.
You know, to see your son much more often and on the regular. If you want to have lunch with your wife and your son on a random day, you totally now have the option to do that. As opposed to getting into the office really early and then leaving really early every day. It's just too much stress. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understand that. Lena actually had to do that when she was working in Philly, so she would have to commute. It wasn't 90 minutes, I don't think. I think it was about an hour each way. But the problem was that she had to get there. She had to be there, I think, by 6 or 7 a.m., which means she had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And it made an hour, this is when we first started dating too. So it made it very difficult for us at night to just play, you know. And this is when I was living in Delaware too. So the two of us just couldn't go out to dinner on random nights because she had to be in bed by 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
At the same time, it sucks because it's your boss, and he seems like a cool dude, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love the man. And then the woman that I directly report to, who's under him, above me, love working with her. She put in notice as well. Mm-hmm. Her old boss from the agency side poached her back, and she really appreciated working for him, and sort of needed. She really missed that kind of leadership that he gave her.
Yeah.
Sort of like professional and personal sort of like guidance and whatnot. And so her last day is Wednesday as well. And it's just tough because now it's me and like my friend who I've known since her first days in New York. I remember seeing her on her first day in our old group at the agency.
Yeah.
And like it's funny because me and her are now like partners, design partners on this thing. So it's going to be a lot of work. I'm very excited, but the boys are back in town in terms of late hours.
Yeah, it's like those old Ogilvy days for you.
Yeah, I mean those days were crazy. I think my average week of billable hours to the client was like 70 to 90.
Jeez, man.
And that was just billable hours, or things that I couldn't bill. Like you got to add some more time on that.
Right.
I did that for 2.5 years.
Not to mention that your commute for that was about 45 minutes, right? 30,
Yep.
45 minutes?
Yep. In the wintertime, it was freezing. In the summertime, it was sweltering. I do not miss that commute.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, I guess it's something that I've been thinking about. What will my commute be like when I finally graduate? So right now, I commute to UD about 35 minutes every day, and to me that's nothing. You know, I put on a good podcast. Like I'll listen to Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast on Monday or Tuesday if he uploads it a bit later, and I'll finish that in one day. And like when I'm listening to that, plus the fact that I'm just like cracking up to Bill Burr while I'm driving, the drive just flies by. But I wonder what it would be like if I was driving like an hour and a half, especially during rush hour, because I'm fortunate enough to be able to work basically whenever I want. I can work from home most days unless I have a meeting. So I typically go in, I'll leave my house at about like 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. Get in like at 10:30, and I'll leave at like 7 or 8. So I never really have to deal with traffic.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's work. Work's interesting, and I recently got a raise at work. That was exciting.
That's always exciting.
That was super exciting. I wasn't expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
That's very much appreciated. We had been discussing some other things regarding work, but it was just a very welcome surprise, knowing that my rent's about to go up. And
Is that just like an every year thing? You would just expect it every time?
yeah, in New York it goes up around 3 to 5%
Oh, jeez.
year on year. So you can imagine that being quite stressful.
Yeah, yeah.
So now that I've got this pretty substantial pay increase, it'll be nice that I can keep up because I really like where I live. Mm-hmm. It's right across the street from work. I didn't want to have to move, and I think I'll be able to stay here for at least another year.
Sounds good.
That brings up the next story. I had a very good friend of mine. Well, I think what we brought up in an earlier podcast, my friend from Governor School.
I don't think we did talk about it in a podcast, to be honest. I'm thinking about it, and I thought we talked about that.
No?
I don't know. I think we talked about that on the phone or maybe on Xbox. But I could be wrong.
We can totally bring it up. So I think maybe like a couple months ago in January, I was out.
Wow.
I think it was January.
Yeah, I mean time flies. I'm
Wait,
losing
it might have
track
been
of time right
December.
now. Really?
I think it might have been December. Who cares?
Yeah.
It might have been. I think it was January. Let's just stick with January. We don't need to. Those details are not important.
You and I always getting caught up on the details of like these are basically non-important details for the sake of the story. Like anybody listening to it, like I don't. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But you and I, when it comes to this,
We're trying to nail down some details. You know.
Yeah, it's very important, guys. All right.
Yeah. Respect the process. And then I was out to drinks with some coworkers. It was just some happy hour stuff that we do. And then I get tagged in this Facebook message, and it was this girl that I hadn't spoken to since 2008, 2007. And she goes, "Hey, I'm in the city for a client meeting. Let me know if anyone's available. And she tagged me along with 6 other people. And then
Mm-hmm.
my thought going in was, well, if any one of these people says yes, then I'm not going to go. Because it would be weird to catch up with somebody that you haven't spoken to since 2007 or 8.
Right.
Like your entire college career and some time in working, you haven't spoken to each other.
Yeah.
Well, as luck would have it, nobody said anything. So I basically just reached out and goes, hey, I'd love to do it. We ended up getting dinner. I went uptown, picked her up, and what I thought was going to be like, an hour and a half dinner, run home, and then watch West Wing
Yes.
on
This is the
Netflix.
West Wing binge.
My second viewing of the West Wing. Still think that's one of my favorite shows. Still definitely know it's one of my favorite shows, and definitely a show I can rewatch from beginning to end again.
That's a show that I've never seen an episode of, and when I think of West Wing now, I realize I still need to finish the Newsroom.
You don't need to finish the Newsroom. The Newsroom is definitely not as good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not as good, but like I feel like I'm caught up in the story. Obviously, it doesn't. I guess I'm
Why
not
don't you do
too caught up
yourself
in
a
the story.
favor and just watch the West Wing,
No,
and then you'll realize, oh my God, what have I been doing with my life not having watched this show?
no. I'm gonna watch the Newsroom, and then maybe I'll consider the West Wing. But you know me with TV shows. I'm very bad at getting into new shows. Like I might start an episode, and then like it happened with The Wire. I watched the first episode of The Wire.
Well, The
And
Wire, you
I
have to
never
consider
got.
The Wire is like a novel. You really have to invest in that show because once you get to know the characters, it's one of the richest shows that's ever been made. But I digress.
Yeah. Okay.
But I digress. Um, we ended up having like a 3.5 hour dinner. We basically did a huge download on each other's lives. Um, the chemistry was so amazing. Like there wasn't an awkward pause, and maybe that's sort of the product of not having spoken in how many years is that? Do the math. 7 years, 6 years.
Yeah. It's a eight.
Six,
Yeah. Almost 8.
yeah, it's like, well, you got a lot to talk about.
Right.
But not only that, there was almost like a shared vulnerability where we were sharing things that were very intimate with each other. Things that you either A, you don't share normally, and B, you wouldn't share even with your closest friends.
Yeah. Why somebody that you haven't spoken to in like 7 years?
I think, that's a good question. I think the reason is you sort of are able to share or be more intimate with strangers because you're not in your everyday life, so you don't see them as a variable you have to consider.
That makes sense. I was also thinking that maybe it could be. It just depends on the personalities of the people that are in this, in the conversation. So if she's very open with you and being very honest, then it's very easy for you to be open and honest with somebody else too, and just kind of goes from there.
Yeah. So we ended up having like a 3.5 hour dinner.
At the Smith. Was it at the Smith?
It was at the Smith.
Yes, I was right.
Look at you.
I'm pretty sure I remember that, but when you gave me that pause, I was like, "Uh-oh, am I wrong?"
Yeah. And we also did that. You remember that that New York Times like fall in love with anybody if you do this questionnaire?
Yes.
She was the first person I did it with, and we did it in the middle of the restaurant. And after that, it was around like 10:45, 11, and I was like, "Let's get out of here." And I in my mind at that point, it's like, okay, I get to go home. Like, not that I get to go home now. It's like, all right, like this is the end of the night. I'll walk into your hotel. It's been great catching up. I'm gonna go. And then when I get to the front of our hotel, she goes, "Do you have a bedtime?" And I said no. And then we ended up grabbing some more drinks, and I didn't get home until like 4.5 hours later.
What day was this? Was this like a Thursday or was this a Friday?
This was a Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind going out really late on Thursday because Fridays are a little bit easier. And we decided to stay in touch. And long story short, if we decided that the chemistry that we had shared that night was tangible enough where we would reach out to each other again in 6 months. And if neither of us were in a committed relationship, we just go out. One of us would fly to either coast, meet up, and then just see what happens.
Yeah.
See if it's worth pursuing or even exploring. And I find that to be a really fun idea. The reason why that we decided on 6 months was that we both realized that we were both control freaks, and no one's willing to like relinquish any control in this current situation.
Right.
And that this is the best way to sort of keep this fun thing alive. Uh, it's so that same person showed up on Wednesday, and I had seen that she posted an Instagram photo earlier in the day how she was like a packing master because she was at SFO. She was
Yeah.
checking her bag, and like the weight limit was 50 pounds, and her bag sort of popped up with 50 pounds. Uh,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's cool. You're gonna be in JFK. Like, I didn't really think too much of it. And then she reached out at like 5 o'clock, like, hey, I'm in New York. I've got a meeting at 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Would you be free to grab a drink in between? And I go, sure, just let me know. So I ended up meeting up with her at her apartment, at her hotel at like 10:45,
Yeah.
and then we ended up grabbing a drink at this bar on top of this hotel that's like all the way on the west side, so you can see like the entire New York skyline. And it was nice because you could sit outside on the roof, but it was like they had like these plastic coverings over everything,
Yeah.
so you were still inside and it was heated, but you're basically sitting on these really plush couches and you could like look out into the skyline. So
Right.
that was really cool. It was also really quiet considering it was a Wednesday, like a Tuesday, Wednesday. But we ended up catching up. Again, we shared really good chemistry, really good body language, like really close proximity with each other, yada yada yada. I ended up getting home at around 3:30 in the morning. Um, yeah, she also gave me some edible, like medicinal cannabis stuff that she brought, and I
Ye-
was very excited about that.
She brought that on the plane with her. I meant to ask you about this.
Well, she brought
That's
it, but she
crazy.
checked her bag.
I don't, but like, don't they still sometimes check your bags? Like, you'll get that
Sure,
notification every now and then.
sure, but I mean, she's an Asian girl. She's an Asian girl. She doesn't
She
look
was
like
willing to
you.
take that
She doesn't
risk.
look like you.
I don't know what that means, Sandy. I don't know what that means.
Well, what that means is she's
I'm,
neither black nor has a Muslim name.
I see.
But she brought not only like a whole bar of chocolate for me, she had uh, like those lozenges, if you will, when you have a sore throat. She
Yeah.
had those that were like medicinal, cannabis infused. She had espresso beans. Like she came ready to play.
Yeah.
But we decided at the end of that night, like whenever I leave after seeing her, like I have the biggest smile on my face. But we're planning on meeting up in San Francisco, where she's from, or
Yeah.
where she is right now, in July.
Okay.
So that's that story. Um, and that brings me to Zog. We had another game today, and
Yes.
last week's game was good, but I pulled my groin a little bit,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't able to run at 100%. This week I was able to run at 100%, but I had a lingering like strained left pectoral muscle issue. I told you like I got tackled in the air last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Whoa, you got to calm down. It's not that serious."
So that's why I was upset about that because who's like this is flag football. When you said that, I was like, wait.
Yeah. Well, it's two-hand touch. It's two-hand touch football.
Okay, but still.
Right. I think I caught the ball. I maintained control of the ball, so I was excited about that. After having getting completely crushed, and then so my left chest, excuse me, sort of subsided in pain after about 24 hours. But today I got hit again going across the middle. Today's players were mostly D1 athletes. We were told that they were all D1 of some sport that
Why were they
required
in
fast speed.
Why were they in your division?
I'll tell you why they're in a division. We got put in the wrong division.
Oh Jesus.
We were trying to play teams like not at this level, just because most of our players are not that good.
When did you find this out?
Well, we found out today when we realized that we were, instead of being in the lowest division possible,
Yeah.
we were in the best division of our like. I guess there's three major levels, like beginner, intermediate, and why am I not in the NFL?
Yes.
And we're in the bottom one to begin with, that's for sure. Like
Some
I think it's like arena football, college football, NFL. I'm not saying we're in arena football league, but we're like we can pitch and catch, right? And
right.
we were supposed to. We wanted to be in the lowest division. Period.
Yeah.
What had happened was we got put in the best division. Period. And but we're getting more and more competitive every week. So the first game was a scrimmage, and we played one of the best teams like in the NFL. Like, why am I not in the NFL
Right.
sort of level? And they beat us like I want to say like 60-6. Like they were so fast and so quick, it was crazy.
Yeah.
First game last week, we was
But you said
close
that they
going.
gave you a point. They let you
Well,
split
they
at
gave it
six
to us
points,
in the
right?
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were nice people. You know, they were
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
nah, we are not matched well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help us if your entire team is 6 foot and corn fed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
completely know
the
what you
girls were all 5'11" and above. Everyone was super athletic. They all had like the same matching Nike Combat like compression gear.
mean.
Everyone's camoed up. I was like, "Are we ready for war?" I'm not. I don't know, guys. I think I'm sick. Cough, cough. I gotta go. Last week was game one, and we was close going to the half, 14-13. But then we just got smoked on deep breaths, and we lost like 39-19 or something.
Mm-hmm.
This week we only lost, but we lost 33-19. So two
Okay.
touchdowns.
Okay.
But this team, man, super intense, huddling in every play, calling audibles. You're not allowed to set screens like when you run, you stop.
Yeah.
They were screening us all game, and the ref was like not sure of himself, so he was calling it really weird. Like sometimes it is a call, sometimes it's not a call. You just need someone that's consistent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But who really was angry was the quarterback on the other team, which found out was a 35-year-old Asian man, and he was yelling like he lost his mind. He went Bobby Knight on everybody. Like he was yelling how like the ref's giving us the game, and everyone's like, dude, you gotta relax. Even his own teammates were giving him like some stuff like you gotta relax.
Was it really that serious though, man?
It's serious because you get like a trophy and all
Yeah,
that.
okay,
Like
okay.
people
I understand.
Yeah.
You get some super competitive people.
yeah, and I mean I'm competitive too, but I match the intensity of my teammates.
Yeah.
And we're pretty intense, but we're just not good because we've only played 3 times together. Like when you talk to these teams, they've been together like, oh, this is our 7th consecutive season together.
Yeah.
Well, then you've got some time together. You run these routes. You're like, oh, well, when you threw that out route before you turned, like that's the product of playing so long together.
Yeah.
You know, we had some girls make some fantastic catches. We're still working on the alligator arm issue where you go for the catch and when you see somebody, they like duck back in.
Yeah.
Working on this issue where they're open and we toss them the ball and then they stop running. There's that issue. We had a friend, Greg Nugent, who had a shout out to Greg Nugent. He scored 2 touchdowns and picked off a ball today.
Wow.
And it was all about that personal victory because the guy who was D'ing him up was absolutely so mad. So mad. And he goes, dude, I have his number. He doesn't even know. Look it up. He's so angry. But, yeah, this team was a little bit more intense than the other teams. But it was fun because our teammates like to like rag on each other in the middle of the game. Like I have put gel in my hair every day whenever I leave the house, and people are like, Sandy, why do you put gel in your hair if we're gonna play flag football? It's just like giving
Good
me.
question.
Well, I mean, you know, I just do it whenever I leave the house.
No, I understand.
And then people are just like giving me some shade about that. It's just fun. Like it loosens up the other team because they're laughing. It's like, you know, it's not that serious. It's a nice day out. It's a little chilly, but it's a nice day out.
Yeah.
There's no reason to like lose your cool, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Like it's a intramural sports game. Like we all do this to get some energy, like to get some exercise, to hang out with some people for an hour or two, and that's it. But we're getting better. We're definitely getting better. I dropped 2 balls today. It was not as good as my last showing with the 2 touchdown day.
Yeah.
One of them, it was like a short slant route, and I was too excited to like start to make my way upfield that I turned before I caught the ball, and then the ball hit me
Classic.
in my lip. And then I was like, in my mind, I go, "What's that touching my lip? Is that a bum bump?" No. And I go, "Oh, that's the ball." Another one was thrown behind me, and I like caught it. Like I tried to turn my body while I was like sprinting the other way,
Yeah.
but it like hit my hand. It popped up, and I tried to catch it behind me. And if I had done that, I would have been free. Like for 40 yards, there was no one around me.
Right.
I burned this like, dude. The guy on the team that D'd me up was a 6'3" huge black man. And they all had matching jerseys, and they all had like nicknames on them. His nickname was Boobies. That was scary. But I beat him, but I just like the ball was thrown behind me, so I couldn't score. But I could hear him on back goes, dude, thank God he didn't catch it because that would have been 6.
Yeah.
But I did catch another one. Like I like to run these like short routes to like make sure that we get catches. Because that's how first downs are calculated.
Yeah.
It's basically you get 2 chances to get to. Well, you get like one drive. One drive is like 4 downs, right?
Right.
Each catches a down, and you get another set of downs when you cross the 50-yard line, and then that's the last one. So you basically get 2 full drives, like 8 plays.
Okay.
And they had this girl on their team with the largest quads I've ever seen. Her nickname was Quadzilla. We kept debating on the sideline, like, dude, how much do you think she squats? Like, easily 280, dude. She was so fast. When she would blitz the quarterback, it would be all over. Like, this determination in her eyes to get at the quarterback, that's what scouts are looking for. You know? And then, because of the sort of physical intensity, like, they're setting picks. When you're coming across the middle, they're dropping the shoulder into you after you catch the ball. Like, stuff that you can sort of get away with if you're not looking out for it.
Right.
Like, there was, like, you can see, like, when a teammate of our body, like, when the force hits you so much that you're, like, basically spun around, like, you gotta see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But nothing was getting called, and then our friend Greg, who kept getting, like, sort of shoved after the play, a catch after or not, he'd go, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just not going to say anything. I'm not going to give him the satisfaction. But it was just so crazy. It was just so crazy. And so there was one point where they tried to throw this huge bomb, like, post route, right? Like, to the outside corner. Mm-hmm. And it was basically one of our guys, Emmanuel, who's this big black guy, and this other guy, Drew. And they're like the 2 tallest guys on our team, so they were running after because they were both playing deep safety.
Yeah.
And they basically trucked them in the air. And I gave them both high fives. Like, we got to match that physical intensity, man. If you're going to lower the shoulder in 2-hand touch, then I'm going to deck you going for the ball. It's just that simple.
Hold on, 2 questions. Was a flag thrown on that play?
There was no flag thrown. See, that's the thing. Because they would throw flags for, like, false starts. And it's like, oh, so you're more worried about false starts, but you're not worried about player safety out here?
Yeah.
And like, I think there is tackling. There's only one ref. There's one ref and one guy with the clock.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Like, this is there's 2-hand touch. There's a flag football league, and there is I think there's a tackle league. I'm not sure. But
so how do they expect the refs to actually see everything that's happening on the field? I mean, I know that's 8 people, but that's still 16 people that one person has to keep an eye on. Exactly. And there are all sorts of things that he has to keep an eye out for as well, in terms of when the QB can actually run, when the defense actually rushes him, and then he also has to watch out for all those pick plays and pass interference and this.
Yeah,
and that.
You're right. It's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work, but it's still like it was just tough. It was a tough one, but I had a lot of fun. I basically gave the other team a lot of credit too. I was like, this one guy was really good at juking and like spin moves, so I called him Mr. Wiggle Sticks. I was like, dude, you're wiggle sticking out there. He goes, yeah, I'm working on that spin move real good. And I go, you just he burned me on this one play where I went up for the 2-hand touch, and he did like a step back and a spin to the outside. I was like, hold on, time out. You did that in one fucking move. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. But no game next week because of Easter, and then we come back. So hopefully my fucking left side heals up, because I can't even lift my arm above my shoulder right now. Mm. And like breathing in's got a little bit of a pain to it.
That's no good.
I think it might just be a pinched nerve or like a strained muscle. Those will go away, but I can't lift if my left chest hurts.
Right.
Like that's just it's bad enough. So
Gotta just rest it out, I guess.
that's not what I'm trying
Not a
to
whole
do.
lot that you can do.
Yeah, and like running hurts too, but it's good. We're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just nice to be outside and like get to run full speed, and like catch balls and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah. Just got back from the NYCFC game. We lost 1-0 today, the Sporting KC. The issue was I thought I wore enough. I wore like these jeans, like heavy denim jeans, a sweater, and then a ski jacket. But it was 30 degrees outside, and the wind was blowing, and I damn near lost my mind. So I just had to come home early.
Jeez. What? How long were you able to stay?
Spent about a quarter, the half, and about
Okay.
10 minutes into the second half, and I was like, I'm
Okay.
just gonna leave.
How many people do you have tickets with?
Eight, one, two, three, four, five, 8 other people.
Okay, nice.
So we have
you
two
You got a
rows.
good crowd.
Yeah, we're basically 2 rows in our section, and we're trying to make friends with other people. I do like to yell in these games when I see something, and I usually say something pretty blue, so people start to know me as a guy who's got like the witty comments. There's a guy with really funny comments 2 rows behind us, 1 row behind us, and 3 rows ahead of us. So we've all got we've got the peanut gallery locked down.
Nice. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really been to too many professional sporting events, to be honest. I remember I went to my dad took us to a couple of baseball games when I was really young, and I don't remember those at all. Never been to an NBA game. I've been to one NFL game.
I've been to a couple of NBA games, a couple of Sixer games. I saw Sixers play the Heat, and that's when I found out that Dwayne Wade is actually really tall.
Oh yeah, he's like 6'4".
Oh, yeah, easily 6'4", 6'5". It's just when you have him next to Chris Bosh and LeBron James, he looks tiny.
Yeah, isn't that kind of funny how deceiving NBA players' heights can be, and then until you see them standing next to like the sideline reporters at the end of the game when they're getting like interviewed. So like, and I mean even then like some of them can be a bit short. So you have like Chris Paul or whatever, but even he's like 6 foot, like maybe 6'2".
Yeah. It was just crazy, and let's see, I saw that. I've seen a couple of Rockets games when Yao Ming was playing.
Yeah.
And that was crazy because there was more Rocket fans than Sixer fans.
Really?
All to see Yao Ming. And this is when Yao Ming was good. Yao Ming's one of the best big men to ever play.
He
I ain't gonna lie.
was plagued by injuries, man.
Oh, well, I mean, he's Asian.
Wasn't he basically bred for basketball? Did they just take like the tallest man and the tallest woman in China and?
Well, the tallest man and the tallest woman, they were both professional basketball players.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like he was like 6 something, she was 6 something. They were both already basketball players. They weren't like picked out of a line and be like, all right, you two, go make the next big.
Go make some babies. Yeah.
But I've seen those games. I've seen a ton of baseball games, like a lot of Yankee games.
Okay.
Those are either like cheap nosebleeds, or my friend who has like a boss that's got like a box seat. We'll just give them up one night and like we'll go.
See, I need a friend. I need a friend with that, man.
Yeah, right. I've seen a couple of box seat games at Yankee Stadium. I remember that my old agency gave me photos once. Amex has given me some. I've seen a ton of tennis too, like in the U.S. Open.
I would love to see some tennis. I haven't seen any tennis before.
Yeah, I
either.
think you'd really like that. It's just
absolutely
really hot though, because it's at the end of August, beginning of
Yeah, I know.
September, and those are like 90-degree days, full humidity, where
Yeah.
everything you touch is slightly wet. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. And I've seen 2 football games, 3 football. I've seen 3 football games. I've seen a Jets game against the Titans, I want to say. I've seen a Chargers Jets game,
Yeah.
and I saw a Broncos Jets game.
Common
So-
theme right there, and you are not a Jets fan.
Not a Jets fan, but I will go see them if the Chargers are in town.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but like I was gonna take my dad this past year to see him, but it was on like Christmas Eve, so that's a no go. And 2 years ago, maybe, um, there was a game in Philly, but I don't want to take my dad as Charger fans into Philly. Like that's
Yeah,
just not worth it.
isn't that funny? Like that reputation. It was fun. You showed me that the Bill Burr driving video on YouTube. He's taking us on a tour of L.A. and he takes us to the Rose Bowl, and and then the L.A. Coliseum, and he's like, what was it, like an Oakland Raiders or a father of two was kicked in the head by a Raiders fan. Don't you just love sports?
Yeah,
It's like
he's
right
like they're
outside
all
the
about the
stadium.
game.
They're
So
all
much
about the
respect
game.
for the game.
So much respect for the game that they're willing to beat other fans.
Yeah.
Like come on, let's be like, it's not that big of a deal. Isn't it kind of weird how passionate you get for a sports team?
Oh,
And it
absolutely.
doesn't really matter. And like I'm guilty of it. I'm not going to sit here and say like it's silly that other people do it because it
Dude, I
happens to me
lose
all the
my
time.
mind
I
every
get so
weekend
yeah,
during
you
the
get so
NFL
angry.
season.
My emotions are just like I'm just they're all over the place,
The
man.
rest of the day is determined on whether or not my Chargers win or not.
But then what's funny is like if it's a really close game, a lot of times it's not really a close game because the other team is so good. It's a close game because your team is just like playing like doo doo.
Yeah. Oh my god, like the doo-doo Browns.
And then
It's
you
oh my gosh.
and
Can't.
then you're just like, that was a very ugly win. You end up like me at the end of the season with the Colts. Like, yeah, we made it to the playoffs, but it's about to be an ugly playoffs. We're gonna get knocked out in the first round because we haven't been playing like we lost the Cowboys like 38-0, whatever it was, something insane.
Yeah. It
Got
wasn't
compl-
pretty.
Yeah,
Um
but Philly fans,
but that's all part of it though.
yeah,
That's all part of it. It's I'm a huge sports fan and that's never going to change unless the Chargers get moved to LA and then I'll lose my mind. And I
would
don't know
you?
if I don't think I would be able I don't know how I would feel about rooting for the LA Chargers. I've been trying to follow up on this and people keep saying like oh, like a true fan will follow them wherever you go, but I'm
Tell that
never
to Baltimore.
right? They at least they got a team. They got
They
a
did get
team
a team
again.
back. They got a team again, but Colts just picked up in the middle of the night and just snuck off.
Well, that's different too, because the Chargers won't sneak off in the middle of the
Yeah,
night.
but you know,
I just don't know if I'm gonna root for another team. And you can't ask me to root for a New York or a Philly team, because like even though I've been living quote unquote outside Philly for this long, like I still can't do it.
it's hard to. I can't imagine how difficult it is to pick up, like to start being a fan of some other team. Like I've been watching a lot of the NBA lately, and I still don't really have a team that I really love. Like I'm not a fan of any particular team. I just like watching basketball, and like if you had to ask me like what team, like if I'm supposed to pick a team, I guess I'll pick Philly because they're close. Still haven't been to a game though. I do plan on going to one at least. In the next year or so, but it's got to be a completely different thing when you love football and then all of a sudden your team does like if they just up and left, especially if they left in the middle of the night like the Colts did.
Yeah, it's just I don't know
Like
how I
it's
feel about that.
yeah, like there I'm sure there are other teams that you were liking that you respect. Maybe you could pick one of those if you had to, but
Yeah, but that's like all right. So under that sort of thought, people keep saying, "Oh, I've got a favorite AFC team and NFC team." And I
Mhm.
go, "That's whack. You have one team. You got one team. Like I love the Green Bay Packers. I absolutely love them, but I would never say they're my team.
Yeah,
Like for some reason, Aaron Rodgers, God among men. I just love it when he throws the ball, but I can't be like I'm a fan of the I'm a fan of Green Bay all of a sudden.
yeah. I'm trying to think of what team would I pick
Don't
if I
even do
decided I
this.
didn't want to be a
Don't even
Colts
do
fan.
this. It's who would you be?
I
Who
don't
would you-
know. I don't-
Exactly,
it would be
because
tough
it's a
like, I don't-
twisted thought experiment.
Here's my thing with a lot of like home teams. I get very like annoyed with bandwagon fans, and I think a lot of people do. Like a lot of hardcore fans get very upset with that. So when I see like my friends on Facebook not talk about the Eagles, for so long because they're not going to the playoffs. If they're not good, people just ignore them. But then there are other people. But then when they're doing well, those people all of a sudden start commenting. People are like wearing green to school all the time, and it's just annoying because they don't really care, But being a Colts fan, I don't have to see those bandwagon fans. We're good every single year, or most every single year, except for when Peyton Manning was injured. But there are no other Colts fans around here, so I can just kind of be me. And then every now and then when I see I see somebody wearing like a Colts jersey or a Colts hat, I can shout him out and be like, "Yo, what's up?" Because I know he's a real fan.
Right. Like, you gotta respect the Seahawks and what they've been able to build through the draft. Like, it's amazing. Like, they're a great example of a organization that's done really well to foster talent, homegrown talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you and I and a lot of people out there remember the Seahawks as part of the NFC West? That was trash for a long time.
For a long time.
Like, that division was so sad.
I like the Seahawks because I like their helmets. Like, I like their colors.
Well,
I remember liking them, but they were bad. Like, I remember that they were bad at the time.
Like, their best player was Sean Alexander, who set the single season record for scoring touchdowns at 27 or 28. Before LaDainian Tomlinson broke it the year after with 31. First of all, 31 touchdowns in one year is absolutely ludicrous. I think there was a stretch where he scored. He went like 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Like, put a body on this man. Right. Jesus.
It's insane.
But Sean Alexander, like, Matt Hasselbeck, you remember that game against the Packers where it went to overtime? He won the toss, and he goes, "We're going to get the ball, and we're going to score." And then he throws that, 9-yard out route, gets pick 6. Like, that's the Seahawks I remember.
Yeah.
But now that they've got a good team, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, Legion of Boom, great." Do you know your history at least? Yeah. Like, you bring up Sean Alexander, come again? Get out of here.
Right.
Get out of here.
Then again, who wants to focus on the bad parts?
It's not about focusing on the bad parts. It's about even if you're a new fan, you got to know a little bit about the team. Like, if you can name me your offensive line, that's great. I don't expect you to name all the starters, but if you can name you should be able to name most of the starters on your quote-unquote favorite team.
Yeah.
But then again, that might just be us holding people to an unnecessarily, high level for sports.
I guess. I don't know.
Because we're passionate.
Yeah. I remember the NFC West when the I guess was it the Seahawks that made the playoffs? They were 7-9 a few years ago.
Yeah.
Or was that the Cardinals? Cardinals made it 8 and then I think 9-8.
Yeah.
And that was the year that they went to the Super Bowl, right?
You're right. Kurt Warner resurrected, and he was so close to winning another one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a great game. I can't believe he threw that interception, that 100-yard James Harrison interception.
Right. He was, that man was dying at the end of that.
You would be too. Breathing. You would be too. Oh my God.
I don't think I'd be struggling like he was. Keep in mind that man, he's a big man. All props to him. He made it. He made that 100 yards.
Oh my Jesus. Yeah. So bandwagon fans are.
Bilbo can't stand them.
It's tough. It's tough, man.
But it is tough, but I think that it's going to be so hard to escape bandwagon fans with the NFL, with how hard the NFL markets themselves. I was listening to a podcast, I think recently. It was a podcast. It was something I was listening to. Oh, it was Bill Simmons with Michelle Beadle. Or not Michelle Beadle. It was Rachel Nichols.
Oh, okay.
He had her on about a week or two ago, and I was listening to that podcast on the plane.
I like Rachel Nichols.
Yeah, me too. She was talking about her history and how she came to be or where how she got to her position. So she was saying something like 82% of Americans this past season had watched at least one NFL game. And that doesn't mean 82% of the people like football or are a fan of any given team. But think about that number, 82% of Americans. You can't get 82% of Americans to do anything.
Right.
They watched at least one game of football this season. A lot of those people are going to say that they're a fan of some particular team. And those, and it's so easy to pick up or to like say you're a fan when your team's doing well because it's fun. It's fun to like talk with your other friends and like watch the games and start to like immerse yourself in that passion that a lot of people have for the game. And I get it, but at the same time, it's just annoying because if your team is not doing well, your team's losing or whatever it is, it's annoying to see those people who don't really care act like they care.
Yeah. I mean, the NFL is definitely the one sports X, whatever you want to refer to it as, that I 100% stay on all year.
Yeah.
You definitely feel a tick in my emotion when week 1 comes around, knowing that for the rest of the year, like we have football every Sunday. Bye weeks kill me because like I don't get to see my team.
Right.
But this year, especially with free agency, like I've been able to follow this so closely, and I just love it that the draft is coming up because that's when like, oh, it's about to be football time again.
Yeah. I also think that football has it like it's so easy to follow football, like consistently. There are only 16 games for your team every year, or every season at least. If you try to follow basketball, you have 82 games to pay attention to, and a lot of those games, especially nowadays, you have players that are just taking games off just randomly. Like LeBron took 2 weeks off. I'm like, while supposedly it made him a much better player, he's playing a lot better than he was before the break. It's just like it's obvious that not every single game is going to matter to every player.
Right. And it sucks for the fans because you spend good money coming out.
Exactly. I don't know that LeBron's not going to play today. I paid however much money for these tickets.
Assuming he would be.
Right. So I'm assuming that LeBron's going to be playing. He's my favorite basketball player. I got my LeBron jersey on. It doesn't even have to be LeBron. I don't want to like sit here and say it's LeBron, but it just any player that takes a game off or something like that. People keep complaining, saying that's not how it would have gone down. Like in the 90s, every player would have played every single game. Even if they were injured, they would have tried to play. But, different game. And also, we know a lot more than we did back then, in terms of player safety and, your longevity. You want to make sure you have as long of a career as possible. But then, like, can you, like, I can't imagine following a baseball team. And I know, like, I feel so bad for the fans that pay attention to every single game. Their teams make it to the World Series and their teams just come up short. So my friend Dan, he's a huge Phillies fan. And when they lost to the Yankees in the World Series, coincidentally, his roommate was a huge Yankees fan, so that caused that was a bit problematic. But like when they lost, he was just devastated because you just invest so much time and effort into the season. It's 182 games. That's a lot.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And what's the baseball season like? If you're counting the playoffs, it's something like 8 months.
I definitely don't pay attention to baseball until the ALCS, NLCS, NCLS.
I just don't pay attention to baseball like at all. I can't. I find it so boring. I guess I don't know. I think it's fun to play. I like playing baseball.
I play wiffle ball. Wiffle ball's fun. The crack of a wiffle ball bat is amazing.
I just can't really watch baseball. Like I watched the World Series that year. I watched the World Series like much of college because some of my friends watched, like they were fans, but like I would never watch it on my own.
It's too much, man.
Too much for me.
Yeah, but it's definitely a nice distraction away from everything. That's how I like to treat it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then there's fantasy football. Can't forget about that.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
You think that you and I would know a lot about the game, but if you were to look at my fantasy sports history, I definitely don't know anything about the NFL. It's so bad.
It's I don't know. The draft is always like really interesting to me. When I'm drafting players, right? And then I get to the end of the draft and then I look at somebody else's team and I'm like, how did you get those players? I was here the entire time. I saw this all happen.
Right.
I saw this go down. How did you end up with like Adrian Peterson, like Des Bryant, like DeMarco Murray. Like, how did you get like these high class running backs and receivers, and I end up with like mediocre of both, and maybe just like a high class quarterback? Like I'll get destroyed to them every single time. I think I've done well in the regular season of fantasy twice, like really well to the point where I was like I had like a first round bye in the playoffs, and then I've never made it anywhere in the playoffs. My team like always just gets torn apart by injuries. That's my problem with fantasy injuries.
Yeah. No, it's weird what fantasy football has now done because fantasy football stats are scored just as prevalently as real stats.
Right.
So people are now voting for like now the question becomes: do you vote for your fantasy team or do you vote for your real team?
A little bit of both, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather take a Charger win than my win any day.
No, man. So like, of course I'm rooting for the. Of course I'm going to root for the Colts. But like, if I'm playing against somebody that has, say, Andrew Luck, I'm hoping for a rushing touchdown for whoever's the running back for like Richardson or Boom Heron every single game. Richardson was a joke, by the way.
Yeah, right. I was about to say. What happened was no. It's interesting. Oh, I did want to bring up. I'm sorry. I should have brought this up earlier. Um, but after I met that San Francisco friend, she did make a comment about how the job opportunities out in San Francisco are really exciting to hear about,
Yeah.
and that she was saying how like people out there are making like more than double what I'm making here
Wow.
with equity
Wow.
in their companies, and I just think like that's too good an opportunity to pass up. So I've decided, and I'm committing to you guys here on the podcast and to you that hopefully, well, that I'm really shooting for this before the end of next year. So I guess before the end of 2016, I'd like to be in San Francisco working.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just for my career, and some personal personal and professional goals in my life. Like I would be able to knock out a ton of achievements out there.
Yeah.
I just refer to my life as a game with achievements. I know.
I know how you feel about achievements.
Yeah. So, um, that's what I'm thinking. I think I have to definitely work on my skills, my professional like design skills, get a book together, but then like really focus on becoming a better designer so that I can make my way out there.
That's big.
Yeah. Um, that's what I'm hoping to do.
Okay.
I just don't want to bring that up. I definitely wanted to bring that up in this one. I should have brought that up earlier.
Nah, you're good.
Yeah. But
I
I
don't.
think that'll be a good way for me to continue to grow.
Yeah. Get a different. I mean, that's a big move.
I've been in
You-
New
you-
York 7 years.
Isn't that kind of crazy? How
7, 8 years.
How
Yeah.
fast time's gone since like we started college. I mean, you and I both stay in the area of where we went to college, and it does not feel like it's been that long. I mean, we're closing in on the end of our 8 years.
How nuts is that? How nuts is that? It's crazy.
Right.
I definitely feel like I know New York very well. I've done very well in this city. The city has given me a ton of opportunities. Um, but I'd like to explore new ones.
Fair enough.
New ones outside this city. Because I've always wanted to do that. And I don't want to, like, settle down one day and always have that in the back of my mind. Like, I wish I had done that.
Yeah.
So, that's all.
I hear you. It sounds good.
All
I have
right.
no idea where I'm going to end up in my life, but I definitely don't plan on staying around here either.
Yeah. Do you have any, like, places in mind?
I mean, nah, not exactly. I'd like to go somewhere that's a little warmer, but at the same time, I do like the seasons. I like being a part of the seasons and just having like seeing the leaves change colors in fall, having a bit of snow. Like as as annoyed as I may get with the cold weather that we've had this year, I still enjoy like getting a bit of snow every now and then. It makes me appreciate the warmth of summer more.
That's fair. That's definitely fair.
Yeah, I mean, so like that's I guess weather wise. In terms of like companies that I would like to work for, I guess I still haven't figured that all out yet. I don't even know what organism I really want to study in the future. I work with plants right now. Maybe I've always wanted to work with humans, but plants are actually really interesting, believe it or not. My advisor was right when he recruited me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So is that about it this week?
I think that's it.
All right. Well,
We covered a lot.
we really did. We jumped around a lot, but I still think it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I think we'll wrap it up there.
All right. Well, I'm Reza.
Sandy, thanks so much for listening.